Okay, good evening, everyone. We're now live streaming. Welcome to this meeting of the Overview Committee. I'm Councillor Paul Prentice, Chair of this committee. The Overview Committee undertakes pre-decision scrutiny of reports going to the Cabinet on the Council's policies, projects, budget and services. We also have present at this meeting from the Cabinet. No, we don't have any. Apologies. We don't have any Cabinet members present this evening, although I am informed that some of them are watching online. They are here to observe the debate as part of our early engagement before decisions are taken. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being filmed and made available in live and archive form via the Council's website. And if you're in the public gallery, it is possible that the cameras may capture your image. If you wish to avoid being filmed, it is recommended you make a member of staff aware who can direct you where to sit. Members of the public are welcome to make their own recordings of the meeting using whatever non-disruptive methods they think are suitable. There is no fire alarm planned for this evening, but should the alarm sound, please leave via the nearest available emergency exit. Two of the closest exits are through the glass door behind you to my left, and through the double doors on the riverside behind you. And please meet at Tower House car park. The Westgate Garden gates on the riverside are locked at dusk, so members of the public must leave the Guildhall via the side exit behind the glass door. Pippa, do we have any apologies tonight?
We have apologies from Councillor Buckman and Councillor Liz Harvey.
Thank you. And do we have any substitutes tonight?
Councillor Ian Stockley is here for Councillor Liz Harvey.
And can I ask, does anyone have any declarations of interest that they'd like to make us aware of at this point? Either members or officers? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a director on the Canenco board.
Thank you. And we've got one public speaker registered for the meeting who will be heard before the relevant item. So item 5, minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of November 2025. Do we take those are agreed? Agreed? Yep. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item 6, which is the Older Persons Working Group, Outcomes and Recommendations. That's on pages 12 to 120 of your packs. And we're considering a report of Marie Royal, Director of People, and Tracy Chambers, Head of Housing and Community, and Gary Pesca is also here, Housing Strategy Manager. Gary, would you like to make your introduction? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The report of the working group, the Council Working Group on Older Persons Accommodation, was last discussed by the committee on the 22nd of May when we discussed the proposals of the working group in detail, and it was agreed to recommend the report for consultation. So since then, the consultation process has been quite extensive. The working group was concerned to ensure that the views of the tenants that would be directly affected by their proposals would be properly reflected to councillors. So to that end, personal meetings were offered to every tenant in the affected 4 Sheltered Plus schemes to discuss their situation, what support they would need to receive if the recommendations were implemented, and to make sure that they fully understood the implications and what could be done to ease the transition. To that end, a personalised support plan was prepared with each affected tenant. What the consultation did reveal is that the support needs of the tenants at Lang Court are higher than the other 3 Shelter Plus schemes. So basically this requires the development of a longer phased approach at Lang Court to facilitate the transition to alternative methods of service delivery. In addition to the one-to-one meetings, there was also a structured survey in which any sheltered plus tenant, sheltered tenant and members of the public were invited to take part. And we received a total of 97 responses. 39% of those were from sheltered plus residents and 51% were from sheltered residents who weren't directly affected by the proposals. In addition to the survey results, there were written submissions and meetings. So there were briefing sessions with staff, there were meetings with staff who were directly affected, and there were 4 written representations as well. In addition, there was a stakeholder workshop with various organisations, all of whom recognised the need for service reorganisation. And I also attended the Independent Living Forum, the Residents' Engagement Panel too, and shared the working group report with those. So the most important voices that the working group wanted to hear from were those of the residents who would be directly affected by the recommendations of their report. So that is to redesign the laundry service and the night reassurance service. So as one might imagine, the residents were concerned that the withdrawal of council staff doing these tasks would affect their daily lives. However, over 50% of residents said that they can use the washing machines, the laundry independently, and overall 27% have someone who can help them with the laundry. So we understand the importance of support such as laundry to enable people to live independently, but the review was unable to find any other social landlord in Kent who's providing a laundry service, a subsidised laundry service to their tenants. This is normally the sort of service that's provided as part of a social care package, either by social services or privately. So as I've mentioned before, the highest level of need for a laundry service is in Lang Court. However, most residents receive a care package either from KCC or a private provider or a mix of both. In addition, the majority of residents are also in receipt of attendance allowance or another disability-related benefit. They will also receive a reduction in their service charge, which will average across the Sheltered Plus portfolio about £30 per week per resident. So all in all, when you take that package together, it should enable people either to pay for a carer to do their laundry or to source a commercial laundry that will come and collect from their home and deliver back to them. During the consultation process, though, it also became apparent that residents were unclear what laundry service actually meant. They interpreted that as being the actual laundry facilities. So things like the laundry rooms and the washing machines, and they assumed that we were going to close those, although the working group's report doesn't say that. So within 2 weeks of the start of the consultation, that was clarified. A notice was put up in all sheltered and sheltered plus schemes. But that has coloured slightly, I believe, some of the responses to the survey results that came in from sheltered housing residents as opposed to sheltered plus residents. So they were under a misapprehension that somehow their laundry room was going to close and they wouldn't have access to it, which isn't the case. So we've clarified that and hopefully we've set people's minds at rest. So the night cover is obviously valued for reassurance and safety, particularly by people who are more vulnerable. And interestingly, most of the residents who expressed concern about the impact of losing that service didn't refer to themselves, but they referred to their neighbour who might need the service. So, that's an interesting result of that sort of question. So most residents don't actually receive or need an evening call from the night reassurance service. And the proposals to enhance Lifeline and provide modern CCTV were all popular. And one of the interesting things as well with the consultation with the affected staff, particularly night reassurance staff, was that they have in some written submissions made suggestions about how the Lifeline service might be tailored or improved to better meet the needs of the residents. So we'll go through those responses in detail and see what we can learn from that and see whether we can tailor the Lifeline service much better. The prospect of service charge reductions was welcomed by the tenants, although many questioned whether they would receive the full reduction. I don't know why we've got such a bad rap on that one, but it's probably one of those sort of internet memes going round. However, they also expressed the desire to be kept informed. So we need to make sure that we respond and keep our consultation strategy alive while the transition takes place if it's approved. And finally, if the working group report is adopted by the council, we will in due course, as an employer, have to undertake formal consultation with affected staff in accordance with the relevant employment law. So that's all from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Just at this stage, I would like to ask the working group councillors just to declare their interest. I know we've done it earlier in the year as Councillor Mellish, Councillor Naomi Smith, Councillor Butcher, and formally, thank you very much, Councillor Stockley. I would like to formally propose to Cabinet that the recommendations of the Councillor Working Group on older persons accommodation be approved. Do I see a seconder for that, please? Councillor Naomi Smith. Thank you. And with that, I'll open the debate. Councillor Butcher.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, can I thank all the officers who have done a tremendous amount of work compiling this report, going above and beyond to make sure that all aspects were accounted for. And every tenant had an input into this consultation. They encouraged family members to attend, as we knew it could be a worrying time for their loved ones. As one of the councillors on the working group, we have completed a deep and wide-ranging review of sheltered housing services, reaching an agreement with clear conclusions and recommendations. I have no hesitation to recommend that the Councillor Working Group on Older Persons Accommodation be approved and comments from the Overview Committee go into Cabinet on the 19th of January 2026. Thank you very, very much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Butcher. I mean, I absolutely endorse those comments. I think anyone who has read the reports can understand exactly where you're coming from there. It's an excellent piece of work. Councillor Naomi Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to reiterate what Councillor Butcher has said. But I'll particularly want to thank Michelle Simmons, Gary Pesca and Sam Joyner for doing such a big dive into getting all of the facts out for us, working with the tenants and working with the staff to make this, because it's been it was originally a difficult process in 2018. The working group has been going across 2 administrations with several different people represented on it. Joe Howes was chairing it when I first joined. And then more latterly, I've been chairing it because Pip was chairing it and then we realised she wasn't allowed to chair it as a cabinet member. I'd like to thank all the councillors who've sat on it cross-party, who had very thoughtful contributions to make that actually have built this report. So I, again, would hope that we can recommend this report to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other contributions anyone would like to make on this report? I think as we discussed it at length earlier in the year, we don't then need to consider it any further. I think the comments that Councillor Butcher and Councillor Naomi Smith have made absolutely sum up this really high quality piece of work from this council. So I think with that, we'll take a recorded vote. Pippa, if you could do the honours. So we're... You've jumped ahead. Pippa's going to run the vote again. Are we all set to go? Yeah.
It's gone.
It's going, right. We're all good. As we were. Thank you very much, everyone. That has passed with 12 votes in favour. And I'm sure... Thanks, everyone. I know that was a really short item, but I think it's worth you hearing the really positive feedback on that. I'll just wait for you to get your things together before we do the next item. Okay. We will move swiftly on then to item number 7, which is the Town Centre Strategies Update. And that's pages 121 to 156 of your packs. We're considering the report of Bill Hicks, Director of Place. And we've got Bill here tonight, as well as Matt Rain, who's Lead Officer for Corporate Implementation. But first of all, I'd like to invite our public speaker, Rick Norman, to address the committee.
Thanks so much. I can only speak for Canterbury, but the report on Town Centre Strategies paints an attractive picture of what Canterbury Town Centre will be like in the future. A place where people can linger, enjoy the open spaces, not just a rush in, shop and rush out again. A place that will attract visitors to our city to enjoy its history and heritage, and a place where people can not only linger but wander and enjoy walking the streets with not too much traffic and clear routes for walking and cycling and the promotion of active travel. So it's an attractive vision for the future of Canterbury Town Centre, but it's a vision, not a strategy, I submit. It's headed vision and strategic principles, and the principles may be there, but it's not yet a strategy. Now, fair enough, it's the first stage, and there may be further work to be done, but the question that I want to put to you is how that further work is going to be taken forward. And the simple answer has to be, I think, that as town centre strategies, the work has to be taken forward primarily by the towns, by the 2 towns, and by the city. And for that to happen, clearly, we need the vehicles, the institutions in place for that to happen. It's made clear in the paper, and spelled out very clearly in the specification for the work to be done on this, that this is all happening in the context of local government reorganisation. The specification says explicitly that the work should put the two towns and the city in the best possible place under a unitary authority. But I think it's clear that that work can't just be done by the unitary authority. As I said, it has to be done by the towns themselves, by the local communities. And so we need the institutions in place, and the obvious answer as to the form they should take is town councils. Now, I'm sorry to sound like a cracked record, but you know some of us have been making the case for town councils, which we don't at present have, and I think that this report makes it, is another reason why having them in place is so important. I'm glad that this is now being considered and that officers will be have been asked to produce a report on a community governance review for the Cabinet meeting in January. So my request to you is quite simply in your recommendation to Cabinet to emphasise that there needs to be a delivery mechanism to take this forward. Option 2 before you says that you can recommend adoption with additions. Can I suggest to you that in your recommendation you do include that addition, that there should be the appropriate delivery mechanism, that it should be put in place as soon as possible, and that serious consideration should be given to town councils performing that role, so that this vision really does become a strategy which can be taken forward promptly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. So I'd like to invite Matt Rain now to make his introduction to the report.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Richard, as well. So I'm pleased to bring the draft town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable to you tonight. The strategy has set out draft high-level visions for each urban area in the district and 8 draft strategy principles in each area which will help to achieve those visions. I'm really keen to emphasise the draft nature of this document. We've been listening to all those that have engaged with us on this work, and we've reflected their thoughts in this draft strategy. The document aims to capture the nature and the issues in our urban areas, and we're keen to hear tonight whether we're on the right lines. The visions describe the future aspirations of the town and city, reflecting what we've heard from our communities and local stakeholders. They intend to be short and future-orientated overviews of our places to help provide direction and focus for the towns and the city. The strategy principles which sit beneath them for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable, they underpin those visions in each of our places, and they begin to articulate what kind of interventions might be required to help achieve them. It's been an iterative process to get to this point. As the report sets out, we started our public engagement activities back in July of this year with community drop-in events, had public survey, targeted stakeholder sessions as well to help understand the aspirations for the town and city centres. We've provided a high-level summary of the public survey responses in the report. By the time the strategies are ready for adoption, we'll give a more detailed summary of the engagement feedback that we've had through this process. In tandem and behind the scenes, we've consolidated the wealth of prior public consultation responses for other strategies, other business cases, Levelling Up Fund application documents, strategies, policies, plans, and so on. And we've done this to ensure that the town centre strategies don't stand alone, but take into consideration the myriad of work that's happened to date. You'll notice in the draft strategy document, it contained maps of our towns and city. These maps are intended to demonstrate how specific projects might be mapped in a visual accompaniment to the strategies themselves. So please don't focus on the detail of these maps, as they're not intended to show the specifics of the projects that will sit beneath the strategies, but that is indeed the next stage of this process. Speaking of specific projects, I'm sure that you'll all be really keen to talk about those projects which should be reflected in these strategies. This is the next phase of the project, and we intend to flesh them out in the new year. If you would like to discuss some of those specifics, then please do get in touch if you want them to be considered in the inclusion for the next iteration of the strategy. So we've completed almost 6 months of engagement up to this point, and I'm pleased to be ending this phase by seeking the views of you, the Overview Committee, as one of the final consultees. These plans are not Canterbury City Council's plans. They've been co-created with the local community, and we do want our towns and the city to feel ownership of them and help drive them forwards in the future. The recommendation is that Overview recommend the adoption of the visions and the strategy principles to Cabinet, but we are here to canvass your views on the draft strategies, and we're absolutely open to further refining the visions and strategy principles before they are considered for adoption based on your additional feedback. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. So I'd like to recommend to Cabinet, propose to Cabinet, that the town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable be adopted. Do I see a seconder for that, please? Councillor Mellish, thank you very much. And I think just worth reiterating, as Matt was saying in his introduction, this is about a strategic overview of what's in front of us. The strategies, rather than individual projects, which I know Matt would be happy to engage upon and officers would be happy to engage on, but I think what's most valuable at this stage is for us as an overview committee to give us that sort of more strategic level feedback. So without further ado then, I'll open the debate. Who'd like to contribute first? Sorry, David. Councillor Thomas.
It's more of a question, really. I'm not quite sure what's going to committee, what's actually going to Cabinet, and what we're proposing, because I've got questions on the report, but I'm asking what the other councillors are thinking about it. But as it stands at the moment, I'm not really sure what I'm actually voting for, because there's nothing in the report to say what specifically we're going forward with. I'm either missing something or I actually don't understand it, because I don't know what we're taking to Cabinet.
So, Matt, would you like to sort of address that in a bit more detail?
Yeah, thank you. So it's the appendix is the report. It's the draft town centre strategies. So it has the visions for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable, and the 8 strategy principles which sit beneath each of those visions in each of those places. That's the report, the appendix that we're asking you to recommend for adoption.
On page 139 of your packs, if that helps. Yeah, agenda pack, page 139. Councillor Stockley.
Thank you very much. Just reading through here. So the first thing that jumps out at me is, I just got to find it again. Enhancing the coherence of the town's leisure offer and developing complementary water-based and wellness activities. It's very, very broad, that, isn't it? And what exactly does that mean? Because we fought long and hard with working groups to try and prevent the jet skis from rampaging through our waters because of the noise and the pollution, and came up with a wonderful scheme. Is that likely to be affected, for example, please?
Okay, thank you. So I don't think so. But that's to the next stage where we talk about the actual specific projects which might help bring alive some of those strategy principles. The principle itself is just exactly that, really, a principle, and specific projects will later fall under that. That's the next stage, really.
Councillor Mellish. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. To come back on that.
Yes, I would like to, please. See, for me, that leaves it open to undo the good works that the council has done in the past. because it's so vague, we could be voting for things that we don't want by voting for this. That's my worry.
I think it's fair feedback actually, and that's quite fair. It's fair comment. Just bringing that to the committee and having that minuted is you know, and it is being minuted, is fair comment, and I think we can make a point of that in the minutes so that that concern is addressed. Councillor Mellish was next.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I'm kind of approaching this document as a broad brush sort of approach. It's kind of setting out not the core issues, but the sort of things that we may wish to address, and that later in discussions, later coming back to this committee and other parts of the council, that will have a more detailed approach to some of these things. For instance, I take a Councillor Stockley's business about the jet skis, but I'm also chair of the Herne Bay Coastal Community Team, and we've been pushing for a long time that we should be doing more about the seafront and the various options there are for the seafront around Herne Bay. And Councillor Thomas and I were a couple of weeks ago down at the rowing club, looking at the things that they wanted to do in terms of expanding their business, improving their storage facilities and so on, and how that might link up with the Sea Cadets next door, how that might link up with the angling clubs, the two angling societies in Herne Bay, how that might link up with the jet skis and the paddle boards and all the other things that we want to see in our waters. And that's the point. I mean, all the way through to Reculver, where we have a fabulous marine and archaeological sort of sites. There are areas of scientific of interest as well. It's the size. So I think this is a very first step along that way, and we know more of that. I'd like to see more of that detail just kind of spoken about in later iterations. I'm also kind of interested in that it kind of addresses the principles are kind of there, talking about the high streets. And there is an impression that Herne Bay the high street is Mortimer Street. And it's not. You know, there are more other shopping opportunities around the town, including what is the high street and the avenue. And those are the things that need to come. How do you make the high street a cohesive, coherent, understandable piece of work? I've got to think of another word for it, but yeah, in terms of how shoppers use it, how do the people use it? And I'm hoping again, Martin, you know, that this is the sort of things that we might bring out in future discussions. And the other thing that the document touches on is how youth uses the town as well. And one of our big issues is that most of the youth of Herne Bay leave the town to go for their education here in Canterbury for the most part, Faversham as well. There isn't enough space at the high school for anybody else, basically, so it's oversubscribed. So there are issues about education. How do we keep people educated in the town? Young people are educated in the town, so therefore they experience the town. That's where their friendships grows up. Their friendships don't grow in Canterbury, they don't grow in Faversham, they actually grow in Herne Bay. And so how do we bring that together? So how do we link this document with an education policy, and how do we develop education on coastal towns? Not just at the school level perhaps, but also at further and higher education. You know, the problem is that people leave the town, they don't have experience of it. Therefore, what holds them in there? So when they come for a job, maybe their experience is out of Herne Bay. You know, sort of, therefore, they're going to look in that way rather than looking inwards. Lots of opportunities in the Herne Bay area. There really are. We have 2 or 3 industrial areas which need exploiting, need developing. I'm very kind of conscious of the one up near Stud Hill on the bends towards Whitstable, Tankerton Way. We don't know I know some of the organisations in there, but there's a lot of employment in those areas, so we need to get them into the town, talking about the town, helping with the town. And I think this is very, very broad, this document we have with us, but it may lead on to those sort of discussions.
Thank you, Councillor Mellish. We've got Councillor Naomi Smith. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I see this as a very early, you know, like Councillor Mellish said, broad brush. I'm pleased to see that the people who have fed into this are wide and varied and not the usual players that we have in the towns. The people, the loud voices, who, you know, but this has been incredibly broad, and these people wouldn't normally be going to local forums, etc. So I think we have to be very aware that this is, not everybody's going to agree to everything because people don't. We know that a lot of people didn't like the plaza idea in Herne Bay. We don't talk about it now. But, you know, it's about pulling all sorts of people together to make a town work. And I quite like that we've used somebody like We Made That, who are the consultants, to deliver that and to do that work. Because I think as councillors and as local authorities, we can get very bogged down in process and not have the vision. I was very early involved with Brixton Village when the Brixton Market was on its knees and disappeared. And I think it was Urban Splash, who were the company that came in, and they turned that round and it became hugely different, you know, massive, different, vibrant. But a lot of people hated it because it was gentrification. So you're not going to win everybody over with these things, and that's always something about it. So I just want to, I'm very excited to see what's next.
Yes.
Thank you. I think Councillor Thomas I have on my list. And
It's kind of coming back. I mean, I'm really struggling to concentrate here because it's chucking out cold air. Huh?
Move to a different seat away from
Okay. Oh, madness. No, I mean, heating would be good in this room, I'm afraid. I'm trying to see where this is leading to. If this is the first part of the next bit, I kind of think I don't really know what we're taking to cabinet and what we're actually voting on for tonight. I mean, if I'm confused, then that's fine. And if it's only me, then that's fine. But it's trying to see what the vision is going forward. And there's lots of work. I mean, Councillor Mellish has said about the coastal community. I don't even know how to contact the coastal community thing, and I don't even know what they do. And I've been a ward councillor for 10 years for Heron Ward, which is that area. And it's trying to do it. I mean, the first thing we do need to sort out for Herne Bay is toilets on the seafront. I mean, that's where we need to start from, apart from our vision. You know, if we haven't got the basics in Herne Bay, where do we move forward from that? I mean, yes, we have a vision and stuff like that, but we've got families. They can't use the toilets in the bays. We've got the plaza, the toilet's shut because there's been a fire. So we need to get that done first and then move on to what people want to achieve. But I'm really not sure where we are with this. There's not enough information for me to kind of see where the vision is, I'm afraid. Thank you.
just to clarify, I mean, I think a way to look at this would be maybe to look at page 148, if you're looking at Herne Bay in particular, where the strategy principles are laid out. And if there's something you agree with, then that might be something you agree with or not agree with, and it's up to you, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, those comments are valid if you feel that's the case. And like I say, they are all being recorded and minuted. Councillor Heaver was next.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll focus my comments on my ward in Whitstable, if that's okay. And I'm going to try and not be too brutal because I gave Matt Rain a bit of a hard time during the engagement facility, and I was one of the people he kindly asked, so I won't repeat some of those points again. But I do share that, I hear Mr Norman's concerns about delivery, and I share my colleague's concern that while even if we accept this, by the nature of it, broad brush principles, blue sky thinking, there's always a concern when you're at these meetings that actually you're going to end up signing a blank check and then something's going to come down the road later. And I just wanted to raise one thing, a specific concern about the going along with the broad brush theory and thinking, hold on a minute, because I couldn't make much sense of the map. And as Matt pointed out, don't get too excited about a map. It's early stages, draft, etc. I really couldn't make, obviously I could recognise the map of my own town, but what went where. But then I noticed in the key underneath,
potential development sites. I thought, oh, that's interesting. This is broad blue sky thinking, but now we're identifying development sites. So would he mind just giving a bit of background on what the development sites are and what the broad strategic vision is for those development sites, please?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Heaver. So these were just pulled together as draft indicative maps from our consultants. There hasn't been any specific projects that have been mapped out, apart from making it just giving a bit of an indication of what a map might look like with the potential projects mapped onto it. So there isn't anything behind that particularly other than just it to be indicative.
Thanks. It might raise a few eyebrows in Whitstable because one of the development sites looks a bit like the Umbrella Centre. I'm not saying it is, so just be aware we could have rioting in the streets quite quickly if that has any substance to it. So if I could just come back on some more general points then, because I am concerned about the blank check aspect of it. In terms of the general principles, would have been nice to see. It's nice to see sustainable development goals in there. It's nice to see active travel and accessibility, which I know we spoke about during the engagement, but pity there's not more SDG 13, particularly flooding and coastal resilience. It's probably just a given for the people in this chamber. That's a key factor for our coastal towns, but I can assure you it's not a given for some of the people that run Kent County Council at the moment. So I think that really needs to be in bold and underlined somewhere in there. And also perhaps the seasonal nature. I'm speaking for Whitstable, my colleagues can say if it also applies to Herne Bay. 2 different towns really, February and August, in terms of everything: congestion, antisocial behaviour, litter, parking, enforcement. Anyway, I don't think I need to expand on that very much. It'd be nice if that was reflected in it as well. So yeah, some positives. It is very vague and nebulous, but that's the nature of it. But I'm very cautious about backing it because I don't like the look of development sites on something that's broad brush blue vision. It makes me feel nervous, and I know my residents will be very nervous about it too. But thank you very much for your hard work, and thank you also for involving me in it for what it was worth.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Stockley.
Thank you, Chair. I think Matt will be the first to agree. This is a very broad brush approach. It is reading the Herne Bay specific page. It's very hard to disagree with anything because it's apple pie and mother love. It's everybody wants much the same thing. But I do take the point about the blank check because I'm very reluctant after many years of council to sort things out afterwards. We as councillors can be accused of not seeing the bigger picture, but when it comes down to it, our job is the nitty gritty. As David said, if you haven't got toilets, you're on a loser, and we haven't even been able to sort those out yet. So while I appreciate that we need a vision, what I don't want to sign up to is these as goals because there's not enough meat on the bone, to be frank. I accept that they are well-meaning, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but when it comes down to it, trying to interpret these is going to be very difficult. The point about town councils, I quite agree. We do need another layer of council effectively when we end up with our one unitary authority. The towns and the city are going to need their own councillors, I feel, to implement this. And of course, at the moment, we're looking at Whitstable, Herne Bay from a very Canterbury-centric view. The point about seasonality is well made. That's not reflected. We do need to possibly have a little more meat on the bone. As I say, I think the point David Thomas is trying to make is that I don't think anyone is going to disagree with what's in here, but there's not a lot of detail, and that's where my problem lies. Thank you.
Councillor Dan Smith, I think. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. So I was slightly concerned that I think Councillor Mellish touched on it with the schools, that the contributions to the process in terms of people responding to the surveys seem to miss out the under 35s to a large extent. And the younger you get, I think the worse that gets. So linking perhaps to schools and things would be sensible, because that carries forwards both from the current position of young people's views as they stand at the point of commentary, and also they are going to be the 35, 45-year-olds as this develops and evolves. So you're kind of looking at this over time, over a longer period of time, but definitely their views, and I think are a bit underrepresented in this, and it would be helpful to work on that and see if we can get perhaps some other mechanism to get that input to this. Yeah, I think that's probably. I mean, the other area that perhaps was also briefly touched on, I think also by Councillor Mellish, but one or two other people also mentioned it, is that the town centre strategy is not just a town centre. It actually, in many areas, expands out beyond the boundaries of it. You mentioned going up to Reculver and so on. For sort of Canterbury, you know, obviously the tourism aspect expands along the Stour Estuary and things like that. It does go out of the city into the peripherals of the city rather than the town centre. So I think that, as a bullet point, at least needs to be something that's linked to the town centre development, because it is something that they will work in tandem with each other, and that applies, I think, to all three towns in this. And as many have said, I also massively agree with the idea of town councils, or the Canterbury City Council having Canterbury Council having their own parish structure, town structure, whatever you want to call it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I see this for what it is. It's our top level overarching strategy and vision that was presented as that. Before I had the intro, I put good strategy, what's next? But I had the intro saying that we're bringing you along in this journey really early before we go to Cabinet, and then we're going to bring back actionable things to how we're going to get there. So I don't need to ask that question. Others asked that question, but you already said it in your intro that this is top level. We've pulled out things that are wrong. We've focused on areas where we can improve. We're going to go to Cabinet. Well, we're here for your advice on that. We're going to go to Cabinet and then come back with things that we can action with more detail. Good. Waiting for the next stage. Oh, and I don't want to be that person. I thought Dan Smith might have been that person, but on page 122, intro paragraph, it says in July 2026. It should say in July 2025. So when this goes to public record, people don't read that in 10 years' time to go, you did that then instead of then. But yeah. Next iteration, it'll be good to have a debate on what we agree with and what we don't agree with, because I'm sure we agree with the vision and what's been pulled out. Thank you.
Well spotted, Councillor Brady. We haven't envisioned time travel just yet. And Councillor Butcher. Councillor Flanagan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the strategy. I agree with Councillor Brady. It is an overarching strategy. I hate to be a stickler for process, but one concern I have is that one of the maps in here that shows a potential development sites for Whitstable appears to show part of the harbour as blue, as a potential development site, which appears to be part of an area in the draft local plan. And the reason I mention this is members will remember that about a year ago there was another document that came before us that was it, Open Spaces, thank you, that mentioned two sites in Chesfield Ward, and the advice we were given was actually we couldn't vote on that plan because of the concern for predetermination. So therefore I just wanted to check if this is showing some potential development sites here which cross-reference to the local plan. Is there any concern that we might inadvertently be predetermined if we support this tonight?
Councillor Flanagan, I'm just going to quickly take some advice and check that we're on.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll come. Was it about this particular point?
It's just a point, isn't it as part of a strategic development plan for the harbour, because it's harbour? But is that on the local plan? Yeah, okay. Because the local, the strategic development plan for the harbour hasn't been done.
I'll ask Matt to come in on this specific point. And yeah, Matt.
I think the maps have clouded things a little bit, and I think what we should do is take the maps out for the next stage. I think that might be best.
Thank you. So if we vote on it without the maps, then we're yeah, thank you. Just wanted to check that.
Okay, I think it's worth me just clarifying. Then we're not making a. I think Matt would be happy to back me up here, but and just support what I'm saying is that we're not making formal decisions on anything. We're just taking the comments of overview on the broad strategy. No formal decisions have been made on any individual sites, but we are raising that as a concern that's been fed back to us at this committee. So I hope that addresses any concern members might have. Councillor Mellish.
Can I just make a little aside, very much a little aside? If Matt is looking for a very good map, the Herne Bay produced a lovely map, led by a group led by Jackie Delbert of the Little Green Bookshop in Herne Bay. It's fabulous. It's all the right sites, all the right places. I'm sure my fellow councillors would agree. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring one with me because they're out there. They've all been distributed, and I understand that Councillor Chris Cornell, is actually going to help to develop some more. And there is a QR code that which actually help people to flash on that. They'll get the map and see themselves around Herne Bay. But it's just a Matt might want to include that in the in his documents. Thank you.
Councillor Brady.
Bit of clarity then, Chairman, because it's saying options available, reasons for suitability. Option 1, recommend the adoption of the town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable to Cabinet recommended. So if we're recommending those strategies and within the document, option 1, there are the maps, then that's recommending the maps. So as mentioned, if we recommend the adoption of town strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay and Whitstable to Cabinet recommended, excluding the maps until more work is done on those.
But I'm not voting for 10 councils, not a million units.
I think we were sort of just discussing just now as well whether we take the maps out, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to take the maps out of what we vote on, so that people aren't. So there's a bit more reassurance that people aren't voting on anything contained within those maps. Does that all make sense? Yeah, nods all round. That's good. Yeah, fine. Okay. Are there any other comments at this stage? And is there anything Matt would like to say in response to anything anyone's said? No? Okay. So I think, yeah, thanks everyone for your contributions there. We had some clarity on what the report contains and specific concerns about particular areas which we addressed, including Herne Bay. We looked at sort of the demographic of people who've contributed to the report, to the consultation, and that process, including young people's views, which I think has been really healthy. I think what we'll do then, if there's no other comments, we'll go to a recorded vote, but minus the specific maps element. Dan, yeah, Councillor Smith, Dan Smith, did you have a...
Same question as Naomi. Is this option 1 or option 2 we're voting on? Because I think there are amendments, one or two comments and things that...
Yeah, let me just get the exact words. So it is option yeah, so it's option 1 in the report. Okay.
Actually,
Shall I just read the words out?
you could do option 2 with amendments. So you're still recommending it, but it's with the amendments, and the amendments is the removal of the maps.
Yeah. So actually, it'd be clearer to say option 2, which is to recommend adoption of the town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay, and Whitstable to cabinet with amendments. Councillor Brady, what?
But officers might want to use those maps when they go to cabinet to add to the strategy. We're not voting on, we're voting on the strategy without the maps, but because then it could be new maps are drawn up, because this would have to have something to go alongside it, visually representing the town centres, and then that would have to come back here. And we don't want this to come back here with new maps because we've just debated it.
If I
I think they need to be included, and you can't make new ones and take them because. So I think it should be 1 with a caveat of the excluding the maps, and then that goes, because if we say
if I read out the full recommendation, and then it will be made clear. So it's option 2 to recommend adoption of the town centre strategies for Canterbury, Herne Bay, and Whitstable to cabinet with amendments. Overview may wish to suggest additions or amendments for consideration by cabinet prior to adoption.
I've just spoken to Matt. The maps don't need to go.
It's made clear that the maps don't need to go into the cabinet report and won't go into the cabinet report. The map isn't. The map isn't taken to cabinet. Okay, is that clear enough? I think I'll ask, before we vote, I'm going to ask Matt to come back on this just to be absolutely clear, because there's obviously confusion.
Yeah, so what we'll take to cabinet, it's the foreword, the first 2 pages, the visions for each of the urban areas, and the strategy principles. There will be no maps in the document that goes to cabinet.
I thought I was clear, but Matt's made it even clearer. Okay, right, fine.
Option 2 and the amendment is the removal.
So shall I read out option 2 again? Are we all clear on what we're voting on? Yeah. Okay. Pippa, do you want to run the vote? That's passed with 9 votes in favour, 1 against, and 2 abstentions. So all the comments will go to cabinet, minus the maps. What maps, you may ask? Okay, so we'll move on to item number 8, which is the adoption of corporate key performance indicators, KPIs. Pages 157 to 195 in your packs, and we're considering the report of Peter Davis, Joint Chief Executive, and Caroline Marlowe, Head of Digital Data and Improvement. Stacey Wells is here, Senior Programme and Performance Manager, to introduce the report. And so I'll hand over to Stacey.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm here to talk about the proposed new KPIs this evening and the report that you've seen already. The new KPIs are aligned with the Corporate Plan 2024 to 28, which introduced the themes of greener, better, fairer and stronger. And the KPIs are proposed to be reported against those themes in the annual report. The report that you've got in your pack covers the annual performance for the previous year, which was discussed at scrutiny last week, and as well as the newly proposed KPIs, which is what we're here to discuss this evening. It's useful, however, to see those KPIs alongside the review of the previous year's performance, so you can view how those KPIs will be presented from next year. And the annual report actually has a different style from previous years in that it's the aim is to be more holistic. So as well as the data relating to the KPIs, it's presented alongside deep dives and case studies, as well as infographics. So, as I say, it's designed to have a more holistic approach. One of the things that that we want to focus on with the new KPIs as well is a stronger focus on reviewing the trend with those, getting the baseline targets set once those new KPIs have been signed off by Cabinet, and also have a real focus on benchmarking, not only with our other Kent councils, but also looking at South East and national benchmarks. And I think that's particularly important in the run-up to LGR as well. That is probably all I'm going to say, actually, I think. There's no maps.
There are
I'm
no
afraid.
maps within this report. I think it's worth saying what we're looking at is really the format of the KPIs and what we measure rather than how we're doing on particular KPIs. Because obviously there's lots of other forums for those KPIs. I'm sure that's understood by everyone. Anyone have any comments, any questions? Councillor Mellish.
Just very small. Could we have a little paragraph at the beginning somewhere about what a KPI is? Yeah, because it's not. We know what they are, but a paragraph or two, we know how they were developed and what it stands for. And also, can there be a link to the SDGs? Because obviously they're mentioned throughout the document, but where does a member of the public or where does somebody else go to? Yeah, to find them. Yeah, an easy ref. Yeah, which I couldn't see in the paper. So.
But maybe to reference it.
Yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah. I remember that now.
Any other comments? Councillor Dan Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quickie. The number of cycling journeys on the green figures. I mean, there was a trend for monitoring only, with multimodal sensors being installed, so data provided from 2026 onwards. I take it this means we should have the full set of data on this next year. Just to clarify if that is the case, because I think that's something that actually from the greener side of things is an interesting bit of data to work with. Thank you.
Stacey, did you want to respond on that?
So I'm just trying to find where that is in here. Which page are you on, please?
Page 164, I think, the number of cycling journeys, it comments about multimodal sensors being installed so data can be provided from 2026 onwards.
Yeah, sorry, I can't see where that is. Does it say where
It doesn't say, does it say, is there anything that would help us?
Yeah, I'll have to ask the service. I still can't see it. 165. Oh, 164. I was close. Thank you.
Third one down from the top.
Yeah, I'd have to. That's part of the exercise I think that we're currently doing is working with the services on what data is available and how they're going to collect it. So for some of these KPIs, the data is readily being collected already and the services are using it. Some of them are going to require new systems and aren't being collected in a very either at all or in a very easy manner at all. So there's a whole exercise to do that. So that has that comment around the multimodal sensors has come from the service around them being installed. So that's the next piece of work to find out about when that data will start being available and what it looks like.
I may. It would also perhaps be helpful to know where as well, because obviously the 3 towns and the rural areas would all have an interest in cycling. So, thank you.
Did I see Councillor Thomas? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. On page 185, it's saying major planning applications and 94% have come to, so we're up. I'm just wondering why we're still in presumption if we're doing that well.
Is that more of a question on how we're doing rather than how we present the information? I'm not meaning to sort of undermine what you've asked. It's just, is that something that's sort of particularly relevant at this stage?
Yeah, that's certainly around the performance, but also I couldn't answer that because I'm not the planning head of service. But yeah, it certainly is. It's around, that's a question around the performance, isn't it? And the knock-on effect of that performance.
I think that's a really valid question in a planning committee, but it's yeah. I mean, it jumps out at you, and you feel compelled to ask. That's understandable. Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I see this item for what it is. It's are we counting the right beans? If you agree that we're counting the right beans and the reason for counting those beans, then we're going to put more information when they go to the right forum to be discussing what's within the KPIs. I think that's correct, isn't it?
Yes.
Councillor Old.
Thank you. A minor point, page 164, where it's got number of cycling journeys. It's the same number as is given for the number of train passenger entry and exit at all stations.
Is that just an unfortunate error? It would strike me as a bit of a coincidence, that one. If not. Do we have a correct number to hand, or is that something we can?
Yeah, I'll have to pick that up and and get the correct number.
I was just going to make a point about data generally. Can we ensure that we can get the data for certain things? Because, for example, on some of this information is collected centrally by regulators and government departments, for example. But other data, and I'm particularly thinking about transport here because it's my pet subject. But some of it might be commercially sensitive, or considered commercially sensitive, even if we don't agree it's commercially sensitive. So we just have to sort of make sure we can get hold of it. I'm sure our officers in the various departments will get their heads around that one anyway. Any other questions?
Just clarifying, sorry, on that cycling and the train passenger. I think it's just been duplicated because the train passenger entry and exit figures are in the current data. 2024-25 data is not yet available, so I think it's a duplication, so we'll remove that.
think the Office of Rail and Road station usage statistics have just been published, but literally only in the last week. So that'd be quite a good one to update. Vested interest. Sorry, I should report myself for that. Councillor Heaver was first.
A very quick one, because I think we're looking at KPIs, not actually at the report, but just in my attempt to win pedant of the evening, on page 167, Trilby Way and Goral Valley Land or Duncan Downs, they've already been approved as village greens. They're not in process anymore.
Who was next? Yes, Dan Smith.
Yes, sorry. Thank you very much, Chair. Just on the interest of bean counting and also the slowly rolling towards unitary authority status, it may be worth also just checking that we're counting the beans similarly in the same sort of data patterns as our neighbouring councils, at least the immediate neighbouring ones, because we don't yet know the format of that new council. And if we are best in class and having more data, then that's something perhaps to share with them. Thank you.
So I didn't quite catch the first part of what you were saying.
The data, it may be worth checking with the neighbouring local authorities, because when we become a unitary, or part of a unitary, this will be a part of their whole data, and it would be useful if it matches the other parts in terms of the way it's structured and formatted and so on, and obtained. And also, as I said, some things we may be best in class collecting more data than they are. So that may be also worth sharing with them to see if they can up their game to match us. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just to point about cross-referencing them with our neighbours. Yeah, I think that's understood. Any other comments at this stage? No. Okay. So thanks everyone for your comments on that. Some useful feedback there. I think it's really a well-presented report. So the data is really easy to see, and it's a format we can all understand, and actually more importantly, the public, our residents, can understand as well. I think, unless you've got anything else to say, I don't think there's anything else to contribute. Recorded vote. We'll have a recorded vote on that. So we are recommending to Cabinet the adoption of the proposed KPIs for 2025 to 26 to 27, 28. I should ask for a seconder, shouldn't I, really? Do I have a seconder for that, please, before we actually vote? Councillor Flanagan, thank you very much. And we can all vote. And that's passed with 12 votes in favour. Okay. Item 9 is going to be treated differently. This is around the property disposals programme on pages property disposals programme for 2026-27 on pages 196 to 205 of your packs. If you wish to discuss this confidential appendix attached to this report, we will need to go into closed session. I'm seeing some nods. I just need to recommend.
The officer can give the
Officer can,
introduction
yeah.
in public, and
Yep.
then we will go to the rest of the meeting.
Yep. So, Richard, would you like to make your introduction in public before we then go into potentially debating it?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. Yep, the report that is in front of you tonight, the last report you're being asked to review ahead of potentially making a recommendation to Cabinet, is the property disposals programme for 26-27. It is the latest iteration in an annual process that the council adopted in 2021, where we bring forward a programme of proposed land and property-based disposals for assets that are considered surplus to the council's requirements for the forthcoming year. As Chair has mentioned, the detail is contained in the confidential appendices due to commercial sensitivities around the site. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so
Then go on to the rest of the meeting. Date next meeting.
So in public, it's the public part. The date of the next meeting is 7 p.m. on the 22nd of January, 2026. And I have to ask if there's any urgent business to be dealt with in public. I don't think there is at this stage. So item 12, exclusion of the press and public. If you wish to discuss the appendix, do I need to ask for a vote on that?
Yes, we do.
So we need to, I'm going to resolve that under section 100, brackets A, brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items of business on the grounds that there would be disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act or the Freedom of Information Act or both. And that's regarding the Property Disposals Programme Confidential Appendix.
We can do show of hands.
And we can do a show of hands, I'm told, for that. So do I see a show of hands for that?
Everyone does need to be.
Do I need a show of hands? A show of hands. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then we'll have this number of minutes break.
Thank you, everyone. So we just need to spend a couple of minutes while we switch off the live streaming. So